restores the one.
We got a bidet. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are talking about the new Planet of the Apes movie called Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. This is the fourth installment from the remake series. So we had Rise of the Planet of the Apes, we had Dawn, and then we had War, and now we have Kingdom. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to give you some non-spoiler thoughts on the movie first in like the first 10 minutes or so, and then we'll give it a rating and then talk about what happened in the movie with spoilers. So I will tell you that when I first saw the very first preview, I felt like I really didn't know what this movie was going to be about, and I kind of thought like, oh, new Planet of the Apes, I guess I'll go see it since I've seen the others. And then they had a second trailer come out that really ramped up what you could expect from the action sequences. And then we were all like, yo, we are on board. We are all going to see this movie. And I am very, very happy to say that they definitely had a huge payoff on their action sequences. They were very fun to watch, needless to say. Uh, I I would say I'm a casual Planet of the Apes fan, but I think this one probably had some of the best action sequences that I've seen so far amongst all the different films.
There
I
were
would,
some death scenes that I was surprised they could have in a PG-13 rating.
yeah, I feel like War for the Planet of the Apes had a bit more envelope pushing, but yeah, this one definitely had some very graphic things to watch. Not necessarily bloody, but like, whoa, you know. So yeah, I would say that this movie was good. I think it was a little too long. I think, let's see, how long is this movie? This movie was 2 hours and 25 minutes. They definitely could have trimmed at least 15 to 20, I think. Um, I like the first there it almost feels like two films in a way based on what's happening, what's going on. Um, but at the same time, I also feel like they told a full story. So like I was trying to think to myself, what would I cut from the film? And I'm like, well, this really built the character arc here. And if I cut this, do I just want one scene of these characters acting together, doing something, or do I want two or three that really, dive into those relationships? So
It's a good point.
even though I feel like it's long, at the same time, I feel like it's where it should be. It's kind of a weird thing it's a weird feeling.
One thing that I think is important for people to know if you have not seen the film. So while this is kind of spoiler, I'm going to keep it in the non-spoiler sections. Stay with me here. When does this movie take place, and do you need to see the other films? That's what I want to cover just real briefly, because that's something that we had kind of debated going into this because I had not seen. I don't think any of these I'm gonna call them remakes, even though they're not really remakes, the reimagining series. I'd seen the originals, but I hadn't really seen the most recent ones. So I did binge them before watching this film. I'm glad that I did. Where does this film take place? So with those movies that Jeremy was saying, there are references to Caesar, and there is a very small portion in that time frame. The rest of this, as the movie says, is many generations later. But they do reference a lot of Caesar and his window and stuff like that. And so there's kind of, if you know, you know. right? So if you know what Caesar was about and why he liked the humans and stuff, I think it's gonna make a lot more things click. Um, if you don't watch any of their other films and you just jump to this, I think you'll still be able to enjoy it. You just won't know those little subtle things to notice and pick up on. And it's just I guess Easter eggs is what you could call it. So that's my kind of spoiler, non-spoiler, but I think it helps you know what to expect when you go to watch this film. So um in terms of my opinion of the movie, I think you kind of hit it right on the nose, Jeremy. It was enjoyable to watch. There were parts of it that had little pieces of humor that I appreciated. There was a lot of callbacks to the even the original films, you know, with certain names or sequence like action sequences or just scene sequences, I guess. I'm trying to be a little vague with that portion of it just because it's kind of more fun if you can pick those out yourself. We might cover a couple of them in the spoiler section, but this movie was really long and there was a little bit of the plot that it seemed too long to explain. Like what was going on with the human character that we see in the previews. I feel like her storyline took way too long to understand what she wanted and why she wanted it, and it made it very boring. Like I didn't really care about her. And I feel like maybe that was the point because you know we care for the apes and we like the apes, but I didn't get into her character. I don't know if you felt the same way.
I don't know. It's gonna sound weird, but at times I found myself lost in her blue eyes because she had really nice blue eyes. But also she looks a lot like I think his name I know his first name is Jeremy, just like me. But I think his name is Jeremy Rayner. Is that the guy who plays Hawkeye from the Marvel stuff? I don't know.
No
I
idea.
think she looked like she could have been his sister or something. Like it was almost distracting. So I
Jeremy Renner? I don't know how you
Renner.
pronounce it, but that's how it's spelled.
Uh, well, her name is Freya Allen, so maybe there's no relation. But I thought she looked like she could have been his sister. So I was kind of distracted with that. But on this, in relation to her character, I don't know. I was intrigued of what the heck is she doing the whole time? Like they keep giving us little bits and pieces of what's going on with her. And I kept finding myself, like, even probably around the halfway point before we actually find out what she is up to, I kept thinking, like, who is this girl? Why is she here? And uh, we definitely find out why she's there. And I think there's an interesting future with her. Uh, I think it's very much a decent prediction that there's going to be a trilogy coming out with these. I think this movie is going to do very, very well.
When you say trilogy, do you mean like we already had a trilogy? This is the start of a new trilogy?
Yes, I would be willing to bet money that that's what's happening right now. I think there's also a big important thing that we should point out too, is that this, from what I remember, this is the very first Disney released Planet of the Apes movie. And so I was kind of judging this movie thinking like, we all have our thoughts about The Force Awakens. We all have our thoughts about, some of the handling of the Pirates of the Caribbean films in the later part of that series, like some big movies that they've had in recent years. And how do they translate here? And so
What
with
makes you say it's a Disney movie?
because they own 20th Century Fox.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So I just think it's very interesting because arguably they played it very safe with The Force Awakens when they started doing some Star Wars films. Yes, there's a lot of callbacks to some previous stuff with this one, but I think there's enough originality where I wasn't distracted by any means of thinking like, oh, this is like the old ones. Oh, this is that, you know. Whereas The Force Awakens, it was like, oh, this is definitely A New Hope with a different paint job, basically.
Yeah, well, you're talking about like stripping plot and stuff. I mean like little Easter eggs or sayings and stuff
Right.
like that.
Right. So yeah, I think they did a great job. Like I said, it's the pacing is a little weird at times, but overall enjoyable. And if you can see it in IMAX, I'd recommend it. That's how we saw it, and very, very enjoyable. What did you so
One of the Easter eggs that I'm okay with saying because it was actually in the third film is like the name Nova, right? In the third film, the little kid was named Nova, so in here we use that name again. Um, I feel like that's one that's safe enough to say, but there's quite a few others I think too.
which is kind of funny because they explain later why they keep reusing the name. It's like their way of saying, you know, it's okay that we keep using this, and this is why. Um, the one question I wanted to ask you before we get into ratings is, how did you like the characters? Because, like we said in the very beginning, you know, all these ones that we've come to know and love from the first three, they are now in the past. So they had to basically establish a whole new set of apes for us to, you know, interact or not interact with, but sit and watch and grow attached to, care about, all that good stuff.
The only one I really cared about with the other trilogy was Caesar. I know his son played kind of an important role, or both his sons.
You
They were
bite
all
your
right.
tongue on the guy from War.
What?
I said you bite your tongue about the guy from War for the Planet of the Apes, the guy that didn't know how to use binoculars.
Oh, I mean, yeah, he was cute, but he played such a small role, you know, if I'm talking about characters from like the overall arching story, um,
I love the orangutan.
from the originals.
Yeah, because he makes that nice sound.
They do make a fun sound, but hey, we've got one in here too.
We do.
Um, no, I thought the characters did a pretty good job. I cared way more for the apes than I did for the human girl. And it's really weird. Like, I don't know how to feel about it because it's a Planet of the Apes movie. You want to care about the apes, but at the same time, you want hope for humanity. So you're supposed to care about the humans too. And I just didn't care about her. I thought she was boring and stubborn and just she didn't really have much else of a personality or anything that made me care about her.
I don't know. I liked her.
But in
I
terms of the apes, I thought the little friend group, because we kind of follow a main little group of three, right? And one of them, you know, we follow his family too. But I feel like they had a good dynamic. I liked their relationships.
gotcha. Yeah, I thought they were interesting. I would say, if anything, before we roll into ratings, I thought the our main ape, Noah, the one that's behind you, I thought he so if you haven't seen the originals, like the originals where they actually had costumes and stuff, the character of Caesar didn't really become a thing until towards the end of the series. And I kind of felt like that he resembled Caesar a bit more from an original perspective, not from the remake perspective. Just kind of his the way he talked, the way that he kind of thought about how society is. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Maybe I'm the only one that got that vibe, but
I just didn't pay attention to that, really. I don't know. We're in such a different vibe than when Caesar was a thing because, you know, the humans were obviously alive and well during that time period, and here they're kind
right,
of going extinct. So we don't really get that interaction for me to be able to direct compare.
yeah. All right, well, let's roll right into our ratings here. I am just gonna go out there and I'm gonna throw out an 8 for this movie. Like I said, I thought it was very good. I do not think by any means it was like a perfect film, but I thought it was very good. The parts that were supposed to be very good were very good, and unfortunately, I do think some of the in-between stuff was just a little too boring or at times maybe a little, like I said, a little too much, or maybe just too long for the sequences. There's something there where that throws off the pacing. I just can't quite put my thumb on it. But to be like I said, I feel like I don't want to cut anything, but at the same time it felt a little off. So that's kind of what I think, and I think it's a very solid 8 out of 10.
I struggled a lot with what to put this at because I think it's a really good movie. I enjoyed watching it, but it was kind of long, and again, I didn't like the human character. There was one other thing that bothered me that I can't really discuss without spoilers. It's kind of I don't know if semantics is the right word, but just how something played out. A solution to a problem that I don't think it should have played out the way that it did. And that's about as generic as I can make it before we get to the spoilers. But anyway, just not super realistic for how something worked out. Um, so all that being said, I honestly I think I'm at an 8 too. That's where I'm at.
All right, so we got a pair of 8s for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So we are going to transition to some spoilers here. This, like I said, this movie very much felt like, in my opinion, two separate films to a point. Just because the first half is uh, Noah. I wanted to say Caesar, but it's Noah. Noah is, we get to learn about Noah's community, and we learn that their community is trying to kind of tame these birds, and they do
Before
it
we get to there, though, there is a small snippet of right after the third movie. We get to see Caesar's funeral.
right. Yeah, we do see Caesar's funeral in the beginning, which is it is important to
Did you
it.
notice that they carved his window picture onto the rock above his funeral?
I did not. Is that what the necklace thing was?
Yeah, that
Ah,
circle with the special lines through it, that was Caesar's window
yes, I do remember that now.
from his original attic room.
And Caesar does play an interesting role later, like the idea of Caesar, not the character.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so Noah is, we learn about his community. They are trying to be, communicating with these birds. They do it by collecting eggs from their nests, and then there's like this binding ceremony where those that find the eggs are, I guess, are supposed to like graduate, quote unquote, to being one with these birds in the community. But when Noah is out and about, and we get our first interaction with the human girl, I'm just going to call her that for now because we learned some names along the way. The human girl bumps into him and breaks his egg because he carries it in like a little pouch on his chest. And so now he's like freaking out because the next day he's supposed to be part of this ceremony, but now he doesn't have his egg. And so he goes out on his own in the middle of the night to try to go find an egg so that he can be ready. And while this is happening, he runs into, or he finds some apes that are like in really bad condition. And he walks up to one of them and notices that they have a mask, and he pulls the mask off, sees that it's an ape. And another one comes up to him and says, like, I don't know if he said run or danger or something. He said something to him
It
where,
was like one of the guards from his own tribe saying there's more.
there's more. That's what he
Either
said.
there's more and hide or something like that.
And this is when we get our first little look at the gorillas, like the gorilla being like the main gorilla, the like guard of our main villain here that's behind me. It's like his little cavalry, so to speak, and they are searching for the human, the girl, and basically they're tracking back to Noah's community of, hey, that might be where she's at. And so they go back to the community, and then this is our first huge action sequence is this little battle. Because they basically raid the community, burn it to the ground, and take all the apes. Well, I would say basically kidnapping because they're forcing them against their will to go with them.
They're definitely taking them prisoner.
Yeah, so to take them back to their kingdom. And so now Noah is kind of on this journey of I gotta find my people. His unfortunately his dad is killed during this battle, and that's kind of what I think is his drive to uh I wouldn't say revenge story because he doesn't
Well,
seem to want revenge.
he promised his dad that he was going to find his tribe and bring them back. Like bring
Okay.
them back home.
Okay. Um So yeah, then he's going to look for the his tribe. He's tracking. He's using actually the bird to try to help him figure out which way to go. And along the way, he is noticing that our little human girl is following him. She's kind of like always off in the distance a little bit, and he goes a little bit further, trekking through. Sorry, I gotta sneeze. Will you take it for a second? Never mind, I'm back. I got rid of my
Okay.
sneeze. We're good. Um, he eventually runs into the orangutan character, which is
Raka.
Raka.
I love Raka.
Raka was an interesting character, um, because I at least I thought it was an orangutan in the originals that had like the more bigger face. And
The orangutans are the orangish haired apes, if you will, and they are always the smartest ones of all the apes.
right, but this one didn't have like the big cheeks. So
Right.
that's why I was kind of like, this is an orangutan, right? And I think they actually reference that he was an orangutan at one point. So I don't know. It's just I don't know my biology with all these apes. But anyways, uh, Noah eventually comes across Raka, and that this is kind of the character development of Noah, where he starts to learn about the past a bit more. He learns about who Caesar was and learns that humans and apes once coexisted because, we got the girl following him. Raka notices it. And so he's kind of explaining, you know, what's going on. Who is that girl? What could she be? Um, Raka even has books from the past, and he's trying to explain to Noah, like, this is how they used to store knowledge, is they would write, these books. And so we get a lot of character development between the two of them. Um,
I Googled it real quick. It's the difference between an orangutan and orangutan.
oh, so is the other
So,
one orangutan?
yeah, like there's no G, it's ton. I'm not I might not be maybe they're both pronounced orangutan. I don't know. But that's the subtle difference in spelling is the difference in if they have the big face or not.
Oh, interesting. Uh,
Anyway,
so yeah, they have a handful of things going on, and I mean, we could go into detail, but I don't really think we need to. I'm just gonna jump ahead to eventually Raka is trying to teach Noah um, how to be more merciful towards our female character that is following us. And this is where Raka says Nova and gives her a name. And so, if you're a fan of the series, you know that that's a popular name. And I thought it was kind of funny because Raka goes, "Oh, we just call everybody Nova that we don't know who they are. So it's just a name to, give to somebody." So what's interesting about that is like, we're always thinking, oh, it's just a remake. They're trying to pull at our heartstrings with nostalgia. And it's like, no, they just call people Nova. So,
Girl Nova.
right. And where he's trying to teach Noah to be merciful is she's cold, and apes have hair, so they're not so cold at night. And he wants Noah to give her his blanket, and he wouldn't do it. Um,
Well, it was his mom's like scarf, basically.
right. So that's kind of our like little beginning of Noah starting to turn a little bit more sensitive and aware of Nova and being kind. Um, I'm going to jump a little ahead here because our next big interaction is when they find the stream, and the stream, Nova goes down there because it's like, oh, water kind of a thing. And I think there's zebras. They learn what zebras are. They're like, oh my God, it's a horse but with stripes. Um, So we get that little fun interaction, but the big thing here is that a bunch of other humans step out of the forest. And so uh that's a little alarming, to Noah and Raka at first, but through some interactions here, Noah is deciding that he is going to leave the group, and Raka wants to stay with the group. He wants to stay and see if he can re-educate the humans because when we left off from the third film, we learned that this virus is, for a lack of a better term, making humans more dumb, like we can't communicate. And so they can't communicate. Nova is the only one that has some sort of intelligence, I would say, that we know at this point. There's something going on there. We just don't know what. And so Raka wants to stay back. He wants to teach them things. And the gorillas group shows up. They ambush all the humans. And so this is where we get the scenes from the trailers where like the apes are throwing rocks to tie their legs together and capture all these humans.
This was really weird for me because this chase sequence of them trying to round up humans, and really they're only after Nova. They don't really care about the rest of them. But like this is the only time we see that human clan, tribe, whatever, any of the other humans. This is the only time we see them. They never return in the rest of the film. We don't see them in like a little prison area. We don't see them being slaves. We don't see them being tested on or anything that we've seen in any of the other films. It's just like they don't exist the rest of the movie.
I
It's
think
kind
I
of
know
weird.
I think I know why. Because um they capture one of the people, and I don't know if he's a guard or what, maybe he's just a right-hand man, but one of the apes brings them to the gorilla dude, and he's like, see, and he's like showing him the face, and he's like, no, that's not who we're looking for. And then they see Nova off in the distance and then go to chase her. I think they're letting the ones go that aren't Nova. Like there's something special about her to them.
I would agree. I'm in the original movies the humans were dumb them too, but they still had them, as prisoners and slaves and whatnot. So I don't know, it was an interesting take, I guess, to not have that be a part of it. They just are free and wild like wild animals.
Right. At least I don't think that they took them prisoner. I can't
I
I
think if
don't
they did, we would have seen them, and we definitely don't.
yeah, I feel like it too, but at the same time we'll get to something later where it's like, well, wait a minute, but we'll get there. So we get this little sequence. We also get the part in the trailer where we see Noah riding towards Nova and the gorilla's chasing her, and he grabs her and saves her, in the nick of time. So we get that, and they get away shortly. It's not too long after this where eventually our group is kind of passing a bridge, and then they get ambushed by the gorilla and his cavalry from both sides of the bridge. And the big takeaway here is that Nova is in trouble. She is dangling basically by some ropes off the edge, and the water is going to be, taking her away if she wasn't holding on to this thing. And so Rocco tries to pull her back up and basically gets swapped.
Rocca.
Isn't that what I said?
You said Rocco.
Oh, Rocca. Sorry. It's the same thing. Um,
This was important. I cared about him. I liked him. I was sad to see him go. He
they
was such a good ape.
they swap places, and once our gorilla dude, I don't know his name, quite honestly. Um,
I don't know either. I'm not sure we ever get a name for him.
there are some people on the cast list on IMDb that don't have a character attached to them, so that's really weird. But once they get Nova, he cuts the line so that Raka is taken away in the water. So um, they take our group to the kingdom of the planet of the apes, which is where the rest of the film takes place, and that's the big boat looking thing, and where we see our main villain behind me. His name is Proximus, and there's a little extra too. Like when we first see him, he is what I thought was kind of like the morning report, basically rallying everybody around, and they're doing like their own little pledge of allegiance, if you will, together, where he says something and then they say it back to him. But he kind of is doing a misinterpretation of what Caesar, like from the previous films, what he believed in. And so what I kind of got from this is like how, people interpret religion differently and how that can cause issues. I think that's kind of what's going on here with like he misinterpreted the belief system of Caesar and now is causing these issues. Because eventually he believes, that the apes, should be running the show. The humans are going to be the ones that, you know, are inferior as opposed to the past. Um, but yeah, so we have our group there. Nova is taken to a room where it looks like a human's room. Okay, there's like books everywhere, and I was kind of like, "What the heck? What is this?" And I didn't see this coming, but William Macy is in this film. I did not know that. Uh, I don't really know how to pronounce his name. Is it Trevathan? Trevathon?
Trevathan.
Trevathan? So,
That's my assumption, just like Ethan, the Thin.
oh, God.
Trevathan, I think.
So what I gather from his character is he's just kind of trying to please Proximus as much as he can, just so he doesn't, get killed or thrown to the, or left to survive on his own. He's like a,
He's a jester.
that's the word, jester. I was thinking jouster, but it's like that is not it. Yeah,
Like
he's
a
like
court
the jester.
jester. Tell me a funny story, or tell me a story to make it funny.
Yeah. Those are the things that he was telling him, to entertain the apes. Um, so what is the rest of this movie? Because now we're here. Nova is, hanging out with Trevathan, I don't know. And the apes seem to be living fairly well, as I thought that was a little different. They're not being traded like slaves or anything like they were in the third film with, um, uh, what's his name? The actor, Woody
Oh,
Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, it's not like when Woody Harrelson's character was there and they were like beating the crap out of them. It's just we're all kind of living here and we're rebuilding, the land to be thriving with apes, kind of a thing.
In
But
a way, but at the it's that there's a little bit less oppression in that they're not caged, but at the same time they kind of are. It's just that it's more of like a giant village that they're entrapped in. So instead of being in a cage, they're stuck in this village because they're not allowed to leave. They were forced to go there and they have to do labor, otherwise they get zapped. So it's like glorified slavery in a way.
yeah, well, the reason why I say it the way I said it was when Noah showed up, was it? his like girlfriend, quote unquote, that ran up to him and hugged him and was like all happy. And she didn't get zapped or anything. She nothing happened to her. I thought she was gonna get zapped. She was gonna get disciplined for being out of order and you're not doing your job. But no, she wasn't. So that's why I kind of thought it's a little bit more light than what we've
Yeah.
seen in the past. But okay, so let's get back to it. What's the rest of the film about? So Proximus sees basically these big vault doors, and he wants what is behind the vault doors. And so every day he has his people grab the chains that are attached to the door, and they're trying to pull it open. And even the gorilla dude like takes their taser staff and lights the thing on fire, trying to get the door to open. And no way is this thing ever gonna open. It's to the point where one of the chains like snaps off and cuts a lot of the apes. There's like a big old thing of blood on them. And so it happens day in and day out. He's just like, maybe tomorrow they will be stronger. And so it's basically the rinse repeat of their day in and day out. What we learn later, because Nova actually speaks up, and we forgot to mention this. Nova speaks up and says, my name is May. And so now we know her by May at this point. And May wants to get out, of course. She doesn't want to be around. She knows what's really going on here. And like I said, there's more to her character. There's something going on with her. She's very intelligent. She can speak English fluently. Um, and she has her own motive. And so she rallies up some of the apes, our, Noah, the ones that we're used to being with, and they're trying to find a way to stop Proximus from doing this. Because eventually like I said, he's trying to do things the wrong way. And so their plan is to blow up the dam that he built that's keeping the water out of their living area. And if they're able to open this vault, flood it. And so um, May, she knows another entrance into this place. And so she takes the apes, they go up, they climb, and they find this other entrance. And they go in there. There's a couple of things that happen here. One, she told the apes to stay put, where they like get to this location. She says, stay right here. I gotta go do something. I'll be right back. They don't. They go and they start looking at different things and they find more books, how humans stored their knowledge that we learned from before. And what's big about this is that they find a book about the zoo and they see when humans, would look at apes from the other side of cages. So like right now, they humans fear to be in cages, but in the past it was apes. So Noah kind of has uh this dilemma, thinking like, what is right, what is wrong, what is the world really supposed to be? What are the apes' place in this world, and what are the humans' place in this world? So that's kind of what's going on with them. And May, this is what's interesting to me. So she goes off looking for something. And this is where we really start to figure out what she's kind of up to, because she's looking through like all these electric panel looking things. She finds like a closet of guns, but eventually she gets to this. You might know more about this stuff than I do, just because I don't know about this stuff. But
She had told the apes that she needed something in there that would help humans learn to read again and regain their intelligence. But the thing that she grabs, it looks like a hard drive to me. I don't really know what it is, but it looks like a hard drive or a cartridge of some sort.
right, yeah, we'll call it a cartridge. I thought there was a special name for this thing, but we'll call it a cartridge.
If there is, I don't know what it is.
Gotcha. So she grabs the cartridge, she, sneaks it away and gathers up the apes, and they get to what's the other side of the door. So they're on the other side of where Proximus normally is trying to pull the door open. And it's filled with military tanks, from previous civilization. So what we learned is that this is basically a military base. And they open the doors, and on the other side is the apes. It's now morning again. They went at night to get back there, but now it's uh, morning again. Proximus comes out and he sees all the different stuff behind the vault, and there's a little bit of a scuffle between Proximus and Noah in a sense where he's like, hey, she was planning to plot against me. You need to tell me, and it's either going to be you helping her or it's you helping the apes because he takes, is it his mom or the girlfriend?
Thought it was his mom, but I'm not sure.
One of those two. So, and sometimes it's really hard to see who is who, especially when they're scrunched up. They had a knife up to her throat, and May shoots the guard right before, anything can happen. And Proximus is like, are there any more of those in there? Like power hungry.
Like
So
you can go, but tell me, are there more guns back there?
yeah, like he was gonna let May go. And she's, sticking to the plan. She runs and she uh basically puts the wires together so that the explosion can happen for the dam that they set up the night before. Um, so the
This
dam
was
explodes.
this was what I thought was weird or I didn't understand. Okay, so the dam explodes, the water starts rushing in, which makes sense, right? Because that's what happens, the whole point of the dam. But their civilization was not that deep underground compared to the water. So I'm expecting the water level to rise, let's just say 30 feet, because even 30 feet is pretty deep. But when they're trying to get into that vault, just because they're trying to get higher ground, right? So the easiest way for them to get up is to climb inside the vault. They're climbing and climbing, and it's almost like the Titanic. The water level just keeps on rising and rising, and like multiple stories. And I don't remember them being that far underground for the water to raise that high. That did not make sense to me.
So the way that well, the way that will help me sleep at night is that I feel like in that situation with so much water rushing in and the spaces got tighter and tighter, I feel like that's what kind of played into how it rose so fast.
Could
Um,
be. It's a big
and
ocean.
yeah, I mean, as far as the depth, I don't know. I don't know. I think maybe how dark it was kind of took away um the depth perception of the area, maybe because it was a very dark area. But yeah, I was kind of wondering too, like, dang, that's a lot of water. But I mean, if it's coming from the ocean, it's going to be an endless supply, and it's definitely going to flood the whole thing. So, um, yeah, she explodes it, fills the area. The gorilla tries to take out Noah, and Noah outsmarts him. He's actually known for being a very clever ape. And then the final part of this is eventually they find their way through that separate exit that they, went in the other way and during the night. And there's a little battle between Proximus and Noah. And Proximus is like beating the crap out of Noah, and he tells him, get up one more time and bow right before your death, basically. And the birds are flying around them that are known for their people.
See, and I thought this was really cool because when Noah was talking to his mom, like the day before, she said that the birds won't land here because Proximus doesn't value them and he doesn't think that there's any kind of relationship needed between them. So then what happens after this, where he uses those birds and that song that Rocco wanted him to sing, because oh, it would have been cool to hear a song. But he uses that song to call the birds down and take out Proximus. They basically peck him to death, and it was brutal. And I guess he doesn't get quite pecked to death because he dies from falling off the cliff. But I just to have the Proximus doesn't value them, and then that's what takes him out. I thought that was a nice play on things.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool too. This isn't quite the end of the movie yet, because the apes move back to the community that we started with in the beginning, and they're rebuilding it. Um, May,
Fulfilled his promise to his dad.
right. May does leave the group, which I thought was it was like, oh, they're definitely having a sequel here, when they see her leaving before all the stuff goes down between Proximus and Noah. But she comes back. She comes to the village and uh, basically kind of like a goodbye slash we have an understanding type deal. But she come prepared. She had a gun that she was hiding where if she needed to use it, she was going to. So she's not 100% trusting of the apes, even though those like Noah and Raka in the past have treated her nicely. She's still very, very on her guard.
It's
Um,
interesting to hear you say that because I thought that she went there saying she was wanting to say goodbye, but I thought her intent was to kill Noah or as many of them as she needed to, because she in their discussion, she's talking about how, like this was our planet. That's why I wanted to go back that way. And, he says, "Do you think we'll ever be able to live together the way that they did back when Caesar was around?" And she goes, "Well, I don't know." And that's when he hands her the piece to the necklace. And this was weird too. She had the gun in her hand behind her back, and then all of a sudden we see both of her hands holding the necklace piece. So where did the gun go? Just between her cheeks? I mean, come on.
yeah, I was like, where'd the gun go? Has she done time? Does she know how to keister? What the heck is going on here? But
Editing, whoopsie, that's what that was.
yeah, I mean,
But I
maybe
feel
she
like
had a
her intent
pocket in
was
her,
to kill.
maybe, maybe she had a pocket in her poncho, and that's where she slipped it. I
I
think that's
suppose.
probably what Disney's answer is going to want to be, and not keistering. But Nova, or not Nova, May, I know that's the same person, but still, May goes back to where she's from, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like a nuclear power plant in a way.
Uh, I don't think so.
I
I
thought they
don't
had
know.
like the shape of what a nuclear power plant would look like. That's why I was wondering.
I did not see that. What I saw was the giant satellite dishes that were like partially assembled. She meets somebody. It's almost like a ship door, like with the locking mechanism, or like a vault door if you've seen Fallout. Um,
Her
like a
outfit looked like she was from Fallout, by the way.
yeah.
That blue.
Yep, they're very scared of the outside contamination, so she's almost in like a radiation suit, which would make sense if it was a nuclear power plant too, but she's more the radiation suit was for what's on the outside world, not what's on the inside, because they're so scared of whatever diseases are on the outside where May is. And I think that's why May doesn't go in there. So she's helping the people inside this little power plant communication center, whatever it is, but she's not actually going in there herself.
Which I
Um,
thought was kind of dumb because it's like she's doing all the work, but yet she doesn't get to live inside.
Yeah, I don't know why she stayed outside. Like the whole purpose was for her to be able to communicate, and then she wasn't even the one to communicate. She was just getting this cartridge. But they show them put the cartridge in. It's one of three that are, red, yellow, blue. So they got all three now, and they make contact with somebody who's in a different area, and that's kind of where they end things. It's just that there's contact being made, and oh my gosh, there's other people alive who can talk somewhere else. Like we aren't the only ones. We aren't alone anymore.
Right. And so that makes me wonder, as far as where they're going, because they're definitely going to have sequels. There's no question. Do you think by the end of this series, it's going to come back to being humans restoring order and being in control of the world again?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Think it's going to come full circle?
Yeah.
I kind of wondered, but the one thing that I left out for the Kingdom area was that um, our dude Trevathon, he tried to stop them in the middle of the night, and I thought she was just trying to, put him to sleepy sleep, and she put him to sleepy sleep. She killed him. So I thought that was kind of shocking. But other
Yeah.
than
Well,
that,
I think the apes were pretty shocked by that too. Like, ooh, she's hardcore. Like, we better listen to what she says because I don't want to be like that.
hey, don't cross this girl. But other than that, I think we probably covered the grand majority of what's important.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I mean, there's, like I said, obviously some more stuff that was in there. That's what I would call the fluff a little bit, the more character development. Um, a lot of it was between Raka and Noah, because like I said, Raka was very much Noah's way of being kind of grounded in the world outside of his community and knowing
This
like why are things the way they are right now.
There's a way for him to grow up like pretty quick.
Right. So, which that stuff was entertaining, I will say. The movie did have some pretty good laughs here and there. So that was cool too. But yeah, anything else you want to talk about with the movie?
No, I feel like that pretty wraps it up pretty well. We talked about, what happened and our issues along the way and uh yeah, it was a pretty good film.
All right, well, that was our discussion about the new Planet of the Apes movie. I'm excited to see what they come up with next. I believe they definitely will have something coming out, and most likely a trilogy, just because that's kind of how things go these days. Um, but if you enjoy this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We do discussions about the newest movies at least twice a month, sometimes more. So check back here for that. Drops a like if you liked the video and drops a comment letting us know if you saw the movie and what your thoughts are. So, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.